Are you going away for the holidays, for a vacation or to visit family? There's a couple of things you should remember before you go to check on in your house. Of course, you've got all kinds, as a homeowner, you've got all kinds of other things you want to check. You want to check your thermostat and make sure that the temperature's right and, all those little things, maybe a timer for your lights and that sort of thing. But there's another important thing that you should do before you leave. I have found that most insurance claims for water issues in a house have occurred because a person did not check their water, the faucets, the outside faucets, the washer dryer, and that sort of thing. So a lot of times there's a washer dryer in the basement. Check those fittings periodically. Most basements have a sump pump, and if your washer dryer is down in the basement, that sump pump will eventually collect the water that is building up if your pipes from the washer dryer burst. And we're going to talk about what a sump pump looks like and what it does here in just a minute. But before you do that, I want to show you the kind of thing you should be looking for with your washer. Now, this is just a typical washer, but the connections are in the back. So you can see there's a red valve. Let's look at it this way. There's a red valve here, which is your hot, and there's a blue valve here, which is your cold. Now, they are connected through a normal standard hose fitting, and then those go to the back of the washer dryer right here. Now, these are reinforced. They're fairly new. These are only about 3 years old. But where they will burst is they will burst usually at these seams. And if they burst, these valves are usually open. So if they burst, you are going to get constant flow of water into this room and on this floor until you turn the water off. So if you're going to be gone for a long period of time, a couple of weeks say, I would just take this valve, you might have a different fitting than this, and just flip it down to close off the water. That way this system to the washer is not under pressure, because these places here where the crimps are where the hoses fail usually, and a lot of people can come home to water in their basement or a flooded room. So just take it from me, that's one of the things that you can do very preventatively, very simply for protecting your house from a water issue. Okay, so the other place that you can have a water issue with a flood possibility is your water heater. It's also usually a supply line issue, which means that where water's under pressure, it is coming into the system, and that's the weak spot, is the crimping. Now, this is a good system. You can see down there, that is the cold water inlet. So that is under pressure. That's under 60 psi or thereabouts, most cities. And you can see that that is a metal reinforced line all the way through. That's a very good supply line, so it's not likely to leak there. This is the external going out for hot water, so that's under pressure as well. So that's a fitting that you need to make sure is good and solid and that the hose is not worn out. Now, remember, if you're going on vacation for a couple of weeks, this is the time to check it. And then the last place that it will leak or break is the overflow. So this is a high pressure overflow that allows water to escape, much like a pressure cooker, so that if you get too much pressure inside the tank, that it will discharge out into that pan. So this is the other place right here, because this is under pressure, where you might get a leak. So check all those things as well and enjoy your trip worry-free. One of the things I always suggest for people, because the biggest things that I've seen have been washer supply lines down in the basement that burst when people are on vacation. Of course, it's always on vacation, isn't it? So one of the things you should do before you go away for the holidays, if you're going to go for a week or two, is to make sure that your supply line to your clothes washer is solid. Some people will have rubber. I have always upgraded to these metal lines. They're reinforced and they're nicely flexible. You want to make sure that this connection right here with that red washer is nice and tight, and that the washers are good, and that the connection is good. You want to make sure you do that because that's where they burst. They burst on the pressure side of the supply line. So if they're getting old, I would replace those. A good time to do it is before you go out on holiday for either Christmas or some period of time where you're gone for a week. Because as I can say, it's happened many times where a water customer in the basement is dealing with a flood issue from their washer, clothes washer. This is a typical clothes washer back end. You can see this is the hot line and the cold line. This is where those two steel hoses that I was talking to you about come out of, and this is where they leak, between here and the wall. The discharge is not as important because you wouldn't be running it, but the hot side and the cold side are always live, meaning they're always under pressure from the wall, regardless of whether you're on vacation or not. It's always pressurized, so you want to double check those supply lines. Yours might look a little different than this, but this is fairly typical. I am in one of the big box stores, and as we've talked about before, the issues with foundations is water and soil. And one of the things that happens with groundwater is it comes up high enough to be able to get into your basement, and if you have a basement, or into your crawl space. So that water then sits on the foundation and causes settlement. So there are some things you need to do to make sure that water does not come into your basement. One of those things that your house may be equipped with is a sump pump. And there are a variety. You can see it could be a bit confusing looking at the shelf here as to what would be used or what would not be used. If you have a basement and you're getting water in the basement, or you're concerned about water in the basement, you would need a sump pump in the floor, put in the floor. And you can see here that this particular brand is a 1/4 horsepower, and it is an Everbuilt. It has a float, which is an important part, which means that it's automatic, and it sits in the basin and automatically will come on once the float rises to a certain level. It's got some screening to filter out big debris, and then this would be connected to a discharge line, which goes up about an 1.5 inches around. Most professional sump pumps that would be installed by a foundation repair contractor would have a 1/3 horsepower minimum, and some of them are multiple pump systems, which are really good because then if you have a power outage, you have a battery backup. Both of these are submersible sump pumps. You can see this one's a bit larger. This one has a 1/3 horsepower, which would be able to handle most things. You can see the lift here is 24 feet. Without getting all technical on you, the lift here is maximum of 22 feet. Without getting all real, technical on you, most people don't have to lift water that high to get out of their basement. These are different types of pumps over here. This is called a WaterBug. WaterBug is a pump that will get water off the floor. So if you're getting water and you've got an emergency situation, let's say that your water heater burst or your lines to your washer burst, then that will pick that up. It's kind of a good thing to have as a backup if you can do that. There are a couple other things here that are really cool, and that is this water alarm, which is a good idea to have at the bottom next to your water heater, so that if there's a burst there, it will notify you that there's some leakage.